So let's talk about healing. And let's talk about 2 ways you can move your healing along that don't involve all those narcissistic workarounds. So when we break healing down from these relationships, we can think of it as having several different pathways. Healing while you're in the relationship, healing from a narcissistic relationship that you're having trouble letting go of, healing from a narcissistic relationship you desperately wanted done, or healing from a historical narcissistic relationship that had a developmental impact, such as a parent. All of these different paths of healing all pose different challenges. So for example, healing while you're still in a narcissistic relationship means that you're doing lots of radical acceptance and workarounds, and also learning how to recover again and again from the abuse. It's not fair to say that one is worse than the other, but this is pretty gruesome because you are constantly re-aggravating the wound because you're still in the relationship. I don't care how much you radically accept. When someone does or says something hurtful, it hurts. That's just a fact. And getting hurt and re-hurt all the time takes a toll. When you didn't want it to end, one of these relationships to end, it can feel uniquely isolating because there may actually be some people around you that are happy for you that this relationship is over, and may even kind of be wondering why you're struggling, because ostensibly you kind of got out of something awful. And in many of these cases, the narcissistic person has moved on to new supply or left you with a big mess, so healing feels out of reach. Then, of course, if you're the one who ended the narcissistic relationship and they didn't want it, well, then you may be facing the joys of smear campaigns and stalking and other forms of post-separation abuse. Then there's, again, that healing from developmental wounds, and even that has 2 arms. The family of origin that you may still be in contact with, and the family of origin that you went no contact with. Either way, you're carrying the burden of the challenges with identity and the self-doubt and the self-blame, all of which is the horrifying inheritance of the narcissistic family system. But then if you still have to have contact with them, you may be vacillating between a life where you feel like a functional adult and then having to navigate a toxic landscape that is only going to get worse as parents get older and siblings get more problematic. The problem with, or the difficulty I should say, with healing is that too much of the time in those situations is still spent thinking about them. And all of these situations mean that healing and navigating processes, depending on what was going on, are very different. Again, depending on the circumstances, depending on the type of narcissism, etc., etc. But there are some universals. Healing can't just be about figuring out how to manage an ongoing situation with them. It also has to be about what we do with ourselves. And some of the key healing tools are things like building up social support, which is not always easy, and it's even more difficult when isolation is an issue, or being in therapy, again, not always possible due to money and access, or journaling, which will get you part of the way. But even after a while, even the journaling and thinking about it can feel too much. But here are 2 ideas that we don't always think about. And these sort of pay dividends above and beyond healing. The first is keep doing things that you are good at. And I mean anything. Are you able to bake a loaf of bread, or cook, or do origami, or paint, or write, or your job even? But something that you are good at. And don't give me the BS that you aren't good at anything. We're all good at something, right? I'm not talking about learning how to become a Michelin-starred chef or a Pulitzer Prize-winning novelist. I mean the little things that we already do well, and perhaps better than most. When we have a few of those things that we can do, that we know we can do, they ground us. Anybody who has been in a narcissistic relationship frequently feels incompetent. We are either told we suck, or we're not noticed when we do stuff, and we put so much importance in their opinions, So the key is to just keep doing the things you are good at without considering the narcissist. Not easy to do. Just do them. Frankly, above and beyond narcissistic relationships, when I was a professor and students were complaining that they were struggling, I would also always remind them, take a study break. And during that study break, be sure that they did something that they're good at. Like, kind of get that confidence bolstered when you're having to do something you're not good at. Bolstering yourself, is it going to fix your problem? No, they still have to go study something they didn't understand. But when we do what we know how to do, it grounds us. And that thing is called self-efficacy. Now, the next thing, do something you're scared to do and don't feel good at, but just don't tell the narcissistic person you're going to do it. Listen, the narcissistic relationship, frankly, is a daily adventure in fear and wondering what's going to set them off and their rage. And the next thing is just what's going to go wrong next, right? So you're really well versed in this unpredictability. So do something where you may even be worried about not doing it right or not even knowing how to do it, right? Pushing yourself in a new way. Why? Because odds are when you try this new thing, it'll be fine. Karaoke, snorkeling, cooking a new dish for a potluck, taking a pottery class, doing something new, something you don't know how to do. And when you do it and it actually doesn't go badly, and in fact, perhaps goes a little well, you feel a little more you. You feel a little more brave, a little more, I can do this, whatever this is, because that's the core challenge of healing. And what narcissistic relationships do to us, they leave us feeling we can't do stuff anymore. So go do stuff, try stuff, and exert that competence muscle and the courage muscle. Listen, I am the least positive person you're ever going to meet. I'm not even glass half empty. I'm like glass completely empty. But at some point, when you find that a lot of that healing guidance out there isn't working for you or it's not accessible to you, this is something you can do, and you don't need to tell a soul. Just try it. I did this with bread recently, right? I still have not been able to get a dough to rise. I think one time the dough rose a little bit, but then when I needed it, it turned into a gummy blob, and what came out of the oven was sort of like a rock that was sticky inside. But for years, I didn't even try. The trying helped. And my schema of myself as a terrible cook who doesn't belong near a kitchen, let me tell you, that bread exercise definitely did not develop my sense of being a decent cook. At least I went near the kitchen. And more importantly, I distracted myself from the headaches of the narcissistic relationship I was navigating. So try it, because obsessing and ruminating are not going to work in the long term. They're going to happen, but they're definitely not healing techniques. And the goal is to excavate the you that is separate from this narcissistic relationship and that is capable and wise. But the key is that you do not share with the narcissistic person, and also stop looking to them to be the ones to notice what you are doing. They never will. They don't care. And it's not because what you're doing isn't great. It's because they're never going to notice anything happening outside of them unless it matters to them, and very little does unless it's really propping them up. And honestly, if anyone could put in the comment section some advice on baking bread, I will take it. I will keep on trying. I have never had a loaf successfully rise. Please help me. Thank you.